Everyone, welcome. Hope everyone's having a beautiful day out there. I'm Xandra, and I'm the community manager for CharmVerse. CharmVerse is a Web3 community platform for managing members, coordinating tasks, facilitating decisions, and holding each other accountable. Members sign in with crypto wallets and gain access via community tokens and NFTs, and it brings together onboarding, payment management, proposals, project trackers, and data repositories in one place. So again, thanks for joining us today. I'm really excited for our conversation. I'll be chatting with Ben from Kazm, which is a Web3 CRM platform. So hi, Ben. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me here.
I'm excited to introduce any of our listeners that are not already familiar with Kazm to what you're doing over there.
Awesome. Should I dive right in?
Yeah, so wait, I see we have someone else from Kazm as well. Who else do we have here?
Here we have Natalie, who runs growth and product.
Hi, Natalie. Nice to meet you. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, everyone. Nice to meet you, too.
All right. So I feel like we should maybe just kick it off by starting with explaining what CRM stands for and what that means in case someone is not familiar.
For sure. So CRM is typically customer relationship management in Web 2. But of course, in Web 3, we see it as community relationship management. And it basically helps you kind of keep track of your customers, gather all that data, and be coordinated between the different departments of your organization in terms of how you're interacting with your customers.
Perfect. So if I understand it correctly, CRM is a platform where you're using data to build communities, right?
For us, that's correct. I wouldn't say that every Web 2 organization that uses a CRM sees it that way, but that's definitely what we're using.
Yeah, and that's what Kazm is doing specifically. Okay.
That's right. Kazm is the data-driven, sorry.
Oh, no, you go. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so Kazm is the data-driven CRM for Web3. We basically plug into every community touchpoint. So socials like Discord and Twitter, on-chain data from different blockchains and specific smart contracts, and first-party data, we have SDKs, to create unified customer profiles and help you understand where those customers are coming from. We then automatically segment and label all of this data with AI, and we help communities use this data to optimize their growth, engage their members, and automate workflows.
Amazing. I feel like this is a tool that a lot of people are going to be really interested in learning about because in Web3, it's all about community. And I think a lot of us are looking for that community building, but also the community management tool. So yeah, so let's, before we go too far, I just wanted to get in a little bit of the backstory. So you met your co-founder, Danny Franklin. You guys both worked at Google, right?
Yeah, that's right. We were both at Google before this. I was at Google for a bit over 6 years. For the first couple of years, I was working on applied machine learning solutions. So we have a pretty long background in terms of like data technology generally. And Danny was also focused on data pipelining and data infrastructure. And then I founded my first startup as part of Google's internal incubator, Area 120. And that was called Rivet. It was a reading app for kids that actually used machine learning to listen while kids read out loud to the app and give them feedback on their reading. And we grew that to be the most widely used reading app for kids worldwide within a year of launch. And Danny was the lead engineer on that project. So we've worked together for over 5 years now. He's my favorite person to work with. I think we make an awesome team.
Amazing. I just like knowing some founders' background stories, right? Like CharmVerse co-founders have now had, I believe, 3 companies together. And, I just think the history speaks to the project as well. So very cool. And then, so did you sell that company and then you guys decided to start Kazm together?
Well, that was done within Area 120. So Google kind of technically like owns all those startups from the beginning, but you do hand it off to a Google department. So we got to hand ours off to the Google Assistant. And, last we heard that they were hoping to integrate that into the Assistant to make reading assistants more widely available to kids worldwide. Obviously, we're not at Google anymore, so we're not kind of in touch with what's happening with that. But yeah, we handed off the Google Assistant and we both left Google just under 2 years ago.
That sounds like a very cool tool, by the way. So let's get into Kazm then. Why did you decide to go CRM tool? What made you go that direction?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously we have a background in data, so we were looking for an angle to do something with data generally. And one thing that got us excited about Web3 is that Web3 is basically just, this big open database, right? It's a big part of the superpowers of Web3 is the composability, the ability of communities to build these data-driven network effects where it's not owned by a big corporation. So we were looking for ways to take advantage of that. And when we started just interviewing tons of projects and communities. And it was really clear that there was a huge pain point around just knowing who your community members are. Like they had a hard time telling when they're talking to someone in Discord, am I talking to like a VIP holder who can help me grow the community and has a ton of followers on Twitter? Am I talking to like a rank and file member that I want to keep happy, who's out there touting our community? Or is this just a spammer or a speculator who really isn't contributing and is just trying to like make a quick buck? And without these unified profiles, it's really hard to know who you're dealing with and how they can help the community. And it's hard to know where the right kind of community growth is coming from. And we thought this was like pretty ironic because that whole promise of Web3 is supposed to be that open data. It's that big community owned database. So we thought we could help communities put this data to work and help them use this data to grow and engage their communities in an authentic way.
Yeah, that's awesome because I feel like Web3 opens up all these possibilities and all of these communities and people you can connect with that you might not be able to otherwise. But yeah, how do we best manage it? How do we figure out what their skills are? And like you said, who are we working with? We don't know. So this is a game changer. And like I said, I think what a lot of people are looking for in this space. So you started to touch on it for sure, but like what changes when you go from using a Web 2 CRM tool to a Web 3 CRM tool?
Yeah, so in Web 2, CRM was mostly helping you pull first party data from first party sources. So, like when a customer is on your app, or they're talking to your customer service team, or your sales team, or your website. Um, but those existing solutions don't really make a lot of sense in Web3 because that's not really how you're interacting with your community, right? It's not first party data from first party sources. It's mostly these third party socials or blockchain data or people doing things that leave a trace on chain, but are actually done on third party platforms like OpenSea, right? So you kind of need to really focus on piecing together all this fragmented information from all these fragmented community touchpoints. And there's also a really big missed opportunity of those old tools, right? Because in Web3, so much of this data is public, right? If you look at someone's Twitter profile or their wallet history, you know so much about them out of the box. There's a lot more labeling and segmentation we can do out of the box for our clients. So as soon as they hook up these data sources, because this data is public, we can start labeling and adding information to members that you wouldn't be able to do if these data sources were totally private.
Right. So I have my Twitter account and I have my Instagram account, but where's the overlap and how do I know where that overlap is?
Yeah, that's right. And also just because those are public accounts, right? You can know immediately like this person's an influencer or this person's into these topics or this person, based on their wallet history, they're likely to buy NFTs that appeal to these kind
Mhm.
of needs. There's a lot more that you know than if you're looking at, just the analytics from your Web2 app, where it's just the data that is about that customer interacting with your
Right.
product.
So things can be kind of custom directed to me based on my history profile that I'm building on chain. Cool.
Yeah, that's right.
So you actually wrote a blog post on Kazm recently entitled Web3 Unlocks Communities, where you kind of talk about how tokens can be integral to building communities. And I feel like we're going down that road. So I wanted to mention it. Anyone who's listening, you should definitely go on and check out the blog post. Really cool. But let's talk about that a little bit. Like how tokens do give power to people and collectives and dive into that a little bit more.
Yeah, so in Web 2, you kind of needed all these community platforms to be like all in one platforms because switching costs are so high, right? So if you talk to someone who runs like a Facebook group or that has their community mostly interacting on Twitter, like asking them to move that community to another platform is really hard because you're going to lose a lot of people, right? In Web3, the great thing is that your relationships, your memberships, those aren't owned by any centralized entity, right? They're all on chain. So you now have this possibility of using a whole ecosystem of niche platforms that can instantly recognize those relationships and respond to them. So you can really slap together all sorts of tools and create a cohesive community experience with different tools that might not be related to each other. So for example, like if I'm a member of an NFT community, I should be able to log into a token gated chat app and instantly be put in the right groups with my community members. Or I should be able to go somewhere else like a Web3 token gated Patreon and instantly be shown premium content that I have access to. And you even have this possibility of having members all around the world using different platforms that you as the community leaders or the community admin aren't even aware they're using because those platforms can see the data of who's a member and who has what status and who's related to who has these relationships with who else. And I think that that's a huge unlock that isn't talked enough about in Web3, that it really takes these relationships and it makes it possible for collectives to move dynamically through digital experiences, whereas before they were stuck in one digital experience.
Yeah, it really is a game changer. You were saying like switching platforms in that article. You talk about like it's so hard to get a community to move from one platform to another, right? It's just kind of a headache. It's, I don't want to sign up for another thing. And it's just, and this makes it so much easier to connect with your entire community. So I
That's right.
I like you're creating an ecosystem rather than, here's some of my group here and here's some of my group there. And how do I collect them all together? So instead, Web3 is creating that ecosystem. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I think that's right. And I'll say it's even beyond like memberships, right? So if you look at something like a Farcaster, where it's one-to-one relationships that are stored on chain, that's super powerful, right? Because now anyone can build these apps on top of that that immediately build on the relationships that you've stored through Farcaster. Whereas you can't do that with like Twitter, right? I have all these followers or Facebook, like I have all these relationships somewhere. They're on a database somewhere, right? But there's a centralized entity that's stopping other startups from building cool experiences or services on top of those relationships. But now those are on chain. It really frees me to move through digital experiences with my relationships and take those with me and let lots of people cater and build on top of those relationships.
Absolutely. I mean, decentralization, the power of decentralization is really that it's serving us, right? It's serving the end user ultimately, which is very cool. You touched on NFTs and you wrote another great article that I want to talk about, but I want to really get into Kazm first so people are familiar with what we're talking about and go check out the platform. So let's break down some of kind of the key features of Kazm. So you have a big one is managing your members, right? So you mentioned being able to like segment, tag, and filter. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so when you log into Kazm for the first time as a community admin, you basically plug into different community touchpoints. So you'll connect to your smart contracts, you'll sign in with Twitter, you'll sign in with Discord. And we basically create this big member database for you with unified profiles for every member. And we have different ways of helping you tie together those member profiles with their consent so that like this Twitter user is this Discord member, is this holder on chain, right? And we make it easy to see who's contributing where and to incentivize the right kind of contributions through this unified data.
So you're able to really understand who is in your community and what they're doing.
That's right. It's like one big database with all the data of all your members across all these different touch points. You can really easily filter and segment and kind of see who's doing what and reward them on different platforms for the different things they're doing to help engage and grow your community.
Another cool thing I thought was you can see you can optimize your growth across different social channels, right? And kind of see what's working, what's not. That could be Twitter, Discord, etc. So tell us how that's working, where people can use this to optimize their social growth.
Yeah, I mean, once we have all this data, we can create these dashboards, and we show you these dashboards for each of these community touch points. So we'll show you like which content is actually resonating with your community that you should kind of lean into more, or how engagement in one platform is translating, into something on another platform. Like how is your engagement on Twitter or on Discord actually translating into NFT sales? And I think we all know that going community first in Web3 is so critical. You have to really pay attention to what does your community actually want? Like what is resonating with them and be responsive to those needs.
Absolutely. And another big thing I feel like with Web3 is onboarding. It's really important to make sure you're providing the right information, but also making sure you have the right members. And you also help with that with Kazm.
Yes. So we have these allow list forms that are totally white labeled. You can brand them, they're totally customizable, and you can embed these into your own product or into your own landing page. And if you use these forms, they're fully integrated into our database. So you'll be able to see live results. As soon as someone fills out these forms, you'll be able to see that in all of our databases and in all the dashboards that we've built for you.
So cool. We actually tried this on CharmVerse, and Kazm forms are embeddable on there, everyone. So definitely check it out. Yeah, we love having those, and we've been messing around with them. So very cool to just be able to embed a form right into our space and see what's going on with our socials and members and all that good stuff. So that's super cool.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool to see that working. I wasn't sure if we were going to announce that today, but I'm excited that
definitely.
we are.
Yeah, we've been messing around with it. We've set up our Kazm profiles and have definitely been checking out, and it's been working great. So definitely wanted to give a shout out that, this isn't that we're using it and we're loving it. So yes, it's fantastic. Another thing is, let's see, what else was I going to mention? Automation and integrations. So kind of like triggering workflows for messaging and notifications and all that stuff you want to know about. You offer that as well.
Yeah, that's right. So one of our newer features is that we have webhooks and we have a Zapier integration. So for any of these events that we're tracking, you can use that to trigger automated workflows. So like a good example is if you have a member whose wallet and you know their email that's linked to that wallet, if we see a new NFT purchase, you can use that to trigger like a thank you email or reward or really any automation through those tools that we're used to being able to build upon in Web 2.
That's cool. Yeah, there's so much capability to this tool. I love it. And tell me about the attribution and acquisition features that you offer.
Yeah, so this is also one of our newer features, and it's been getting a lot of traction recently. But we have these SDKs for attribution tracking, and those SDKs are baked into our embeddable whitelisting forms. So if you use one of our forms and you embed that on your own landing page or in your own product, or if you send them to one that we're hosting for you, we'll actually capture which members came in from which campaigns and help you mark conversion events that are like far downstream, so on-chain events, and tie those back to the campaigns that led to those conversions. So for example, you can see which influencer partnerships are leading not just to people connecting their wallets, but that actually lead to holders that hold for at least 3 months, or which Discord collabs are bringing in the gamers or the whales or the people who end up staking your token instead of just doing the bare minimum to get something free.
So many capabilities. I feel like I need like a whole day to really sit down and geek out on Kazm right now, because I just feel like there's so much information in this tool that that's beneficial no matter what business you're in, it's amazing. So I don't want to forget to mention the NFT article that you wrote, why NFTs will upgrade everything, because you've mentioned NFTs a number of times, and NFTs are changing pretty quickly right now. They used to just be this, people would just think of them as this digital artwork or whatever. And what's the purpose of them, right? A lot of people new to Web3, but I feel like they're changing a lot. And your article, Why NFTs Will Upgrade Everything, was really interesting because you're talking about how they can and are going to change our lives. So let's talk about that a little bit because it's very cool. The functionality of what that could mean for us.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you like pay attention to the media narrative around NFTs, they really focus on like overpriced artwork, right? Or these things that I would kind of consider as like a proof of concept for what NFTs can be. And for me, it always goes back to like going back to first principles. Like everything we care about is non-fungible, right? Our relationships, our experiences, the our homes, our cars, our items, all those things are non-fungible. And we already know that digital representations of these things are useful and common, right? So every company you interact with has a record of everything you've purchased from them. Or if you're using any big Web2 platform, like they're creating representations of your tastes and what music you like and who you have relationships with. And they're using this to drive more revenue from you, right? And to deliver a better experience. And that's great. But only they can do that. And they can only do it if they think it's going to drive more revenue out of you as the customer. So it just seems like it follows pretty naturally that if you decentralize these representations, if you give me as the end user control over my own user data about all these things that are so important to me, then you unlock all these powerful use cases where now anyone can build services on top of that data to make that data useful for me.
Yeah, and some of the use cases you mentioned, well, like all of the use cases you mentioned, just really stood out to me. So I just want to talk about some of them because it might be things that people are not thinking about when they think of NFTs and how they could be used. So one is like an interior design proposal. So they look at a blueprint of your blueprint of your home, your taste, your budget, whatever, and then could find furniture that fits a room or design custom art based on your taste. Like that's wild.
Totally. Right. So like if you get a house built, like someone has a blueprint of your home, right? That data exists somewhere. Some company has that, right? But you typically don't do anything with that after you move into your home. But it totally makes sense that if I had like an NFT of my home that knew all the dimensions of every room and knew like where I was based and what outlets I'm close to, I should be able to plug into like like a furniture shopping experience like Wayfair and just tell me immediately like which items fit in which corners. And maybe I have another NFT from my experiences shopping on Amazon that represents my tastes. And that can be used also to filter to which furniture items and which artwork not only fit but actually line up with what kind of items I like. And there's just so much you can do with this once I, as the user, actually own that data and I can give access to whatever services I want.
I need that like now. As a person that just bought a couch that's too big for my living room, I'm like, where were you, 4 months ago when I needed to do this? Another really cool thing, we were talking about the reading assistant that you had made. We're talking about educational content being tailored to a person, whether it's their knowledge as is or how they learn. Again, very cool that you could use an NFT in that fashion.
Yeah, totally. I mean, so much of what we do in education now is around credentials, right? And they're kind of owned by these big old school universities, or just the fact that you worked at some company represents that you have experience in some field. Um, but if you really had a good representation of what I've actually learned and learning experiences that I've gone through and which ones have worked for me and what kind of value have I actually delivered to my employers or to the DAOs I've worked for, right? How many services could you build on top of that to really tailor customized learning experiences for me, or to show me like which job opportunities perfectly fit the experience that I have and might lead to me moving up in the world in a way that I want to. And so I think there's a huge unlock opportunity there in the education space for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. It's wild. It's just ways that I never even thought about it until I read that article. And it was just great to point them out. And then a couple others were just, personalized recipes based on your tastes or your health or goals you're striving for. It could be wardrobe, based on your size and style, or personal assistants, AI assistants to help you with your schedule and stuff like that. Like, just every portion of your life could be affected by how NFTs are shaping up right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, every Web2 company collects this data and uses it to do a better job of serving their customers, right? It's just a universal thing. So I just don't think it's such a big leap to think, okay, now we give that to us and we open up so many more use cases with so much more data if I hold all that data and I can plug it in wherever I want. I think that's really
Yeah,
powerful.
I'm really glad you wrote this article, because I do think that a lot of people, especially people just hearing about Web3 or just hearing about NFTs, or they don't quite get the concept and they're like, wait, why? Why would I buy this? Yeah, they don't get it, and then you present all of these possibilities and how it's shaping up. And I think it's gonna make it far more mainstream, and people are gonna get super excited about it.
Awesome. I hope
Yeah.
so.
So what's next? Do you have some features you're adding for Kazm? What's happening over there? Let us know some inside details if you're able to share.
Yeah, for sure. So we've been in a beta since August, and now we're getting ready to launch our paid plans. So we're really excited to come out of beta and release access to like premium features and make some of our more premium features that we've been working with clients in like a white glove capacity to make those more widely available. Although we always will have a free plan available, and we always want to make sure that the brand new, the smallest NFT communities can still come on and get use out of what we're doing. And then we're really focused on delivering like a high class developer first experience. So we think like the real power of this data is if we can integrate with everything, and if we can make it really easy to use this through our SDKs and our APIs to have like in product personalization and messaging and tons of integration. So we want to plug into all sorts of blockchains, more data sources, and also add access to all the tools that we used in Web 2 so that those can be used to help the growth in Web 3. And then finally, we want open source binding. So we want to make it possible for anyone who has, their own Web3 platform or a new blockchain or even, a messaging tool or something to be able to integrate with us, both as a data source for us, as data that goes into our product, and on the output side as some action that we can trigger based on the events that we're tracking, so that anyone can integrate with Kazm and that we can really enable this ecosystem of tools and capabilities for communities trying to grow.
A lot on the horizon. I like it. Do you and your team attend any of the Web3 conferences and, talk about your product and that kind of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of been a learning arc for this year. We Earlier in the year we went to NFT NYC, and I feel like we didn't really know what we were doing. We were just kind of wandering around and meeting different people, and it was a great experience. We learned a ton, but I don't think we knew yet how to focus ourselves at these conferences. And more recently, I was down at Art Basel, and it was just one of the most productive weeks I've had, where we really understood like who we should be talking to and how we can make the most of that time and actually use it to build relationships with the real builders in the space. So yes, we're making an effort, and we're trying to get to as many conferences as we can now.
Cool. Yeah, I feel exactly the same way. I also went to NFT NYC, and it was my first Web3 conference, and again, was just kind of didn't know how it all worked, and who I should be seeking out and just all that stuff. But it was a fantastic learning experience. I met so many great people. But then I went to DevCon in Bogota, and like that second conference was so much better, and I just felt like I finally had my feet under me and was ready to go. So, any chance you're going to ETH Denver?
I am. I just picked up a Buffetcorn. I'm psyched.
Nice. Well, we should meet up when we're out there.
That would be awesome.
Yeah,
I'd
we're
love
going to
to.
have some of the CharmVerse team out there, so we should definitely try to meet up along the way and be in touch. So,
That would be great. I'll have my co-founder out there as well, so
fantastic.
we can all
I
get
would love
together.
that. Yeah, we should definitely do that. So, for anyone that joined, I kind of want you to give like the overall of what Kazm is before I let you go back to work for the rest of the day. But just for any latecomers to the space, just to give them an overview, what would you say if you had to give like a quick overview of Kazm?
Kazm is the data-driven CRM for Web3. We empower Web3 communities with unified data, end-to-end attribution, and integrated tooling. We plug into every community touchpoint, socials, blockchains, and first-party data to help communities optimize growth, engage members, and automate workflows. And you can check us out at Kazm.xyz.
You stole my thunder. I was going to tell them that.
Oh, sorry.
You can also follow them on Twitter. Actually, please go follow them on Twitter. It's Kazm app. You can click on the Kazm PFP. Also give Ben a follow. They're doing really cool stuff, a lot more cool stuff on the way. And if you're using CharmVerse, you can embed those forms right into your CharmVerse space, which is also really cool. And Ben, I might be reaching out for a tutorial, or you can put me in touch with some of your team, because I feel like maybe I'm not unlocking the pure power that Kazm offers and is dealing with our social media and membership and stuff like that. I would love to just be using that tool to the best of its ability. So really excited what you guys are creating over there.
Absolutely. We'd love to give you a tutorial. And thank you so much for having me.
Oh my goodness. Thanks so much. And Natalie, I didn't even get to chat with you. I'm sorry.
Oh, don't worry about it at all. Just listening.
All right. Well, nice to meet you. Maybe I'll meet you in East Denver. If not, maybe another time. But Ben, let's definitely be in touch and try to get together and meet up when we're there. But thanks for taking the time to chat with me. Really happy to share Kazm with our listeners.
Thank you. And thanks everyone for listening in.
Go check them out.
Thanks.
Thanks, Natalie. Thanks, Ben. And have a great rest of your day and happy holiday season. Happy New Year. All right. Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.